Now let's look at how we go about calculating Pearson's correlation coefficient, or R, using our calculators. Now you'll need your calculator. I want you to do this with me so that you learn how to do it. So if you need to, pause the video and go and get your calculator. Now, as with anything, if you've got a new procedure to learn, it's easy to forget. So you need to practice, but you also need to make the steps seem really logical and reassure yourself that along the way, there's lots of things that don't need to be memorized perfectly as long as you understand what you're doing. So we want to start by clearing all the previous data from our calculator, just so it's like a blank slate and anything we've used it for in the past is not going to get in the way. Now, instead of memorizing this command, have a look on the inside cover of your calculator. I haven't got mine with me, but the first thing that's there shows you how to restore your calculator, and that's handy to know if it's doing something weird. I would always restore it before going into a test or an exam. So it says there to hit Shift 9. That's all you really need to get started, because when you hit Shift and 9, it comes up with 3 options. And if you want to select or to clear everything, then it makes sense you'll hit 3 for all. And then it says reset all, and you say yes, so you hit equals for yes. See how all you needed there was the Shift and the 9 to get started? The 3 and the equals are on the screen as logical choices that you can make. All right, next we want to select linear regression, because that's finding a line and finding the association between two things, from our stat mode. So to get into stat mode straight up, it makes sense you're going to hit the mode button. Oh, by the way, at the end of this, it says press the all clear button. So it's given you that command. Go ahead and do it. We could add that to our notes. We actually need all clear there at the end. All right, we press mode, and it gives you 3 options. It's very easy then to select 2. You don't have to recall that it's mode 2. Just hit mode, and it will ask you, and you say, yeah, I want stats. Now, there's a big menu of stats. Here's how you should remember what to do. We want this one, A plus BX. Now, rather than just memorizing it that it's number 2 or that it's this, I prefer to have it make sense to me. Now, what does this remind you of? It reminds me of y equals mx plus b, except it's sort of around the other way. It's y equals bx plus a. Now, the letters are different, but see how we've got some x's added to some other numbers? To me, that makes it really reminiscent that what this is talking about is something to do with a straight line. And if we're finding a line of best fit and we're seeing how well that line fits the data, to me that makes that a really obvious option for me to choose if I'm thinking about something to do with the line of best fit. So I go ahead and press 2 to select that, and now it's ready to put my data in. Now, I've made up some data down here. I've made up 5 imaginary people. I've put their heights in centimetres and their weights. And I've deliberately made the 2 variables really closely associated just because it's made up data. I just thought it was easy. So I've made the people increasing in height, and they've gradually got a little bit heavier too. There's not a lot of variety here. These people are actually all quite similar. So to put these in, notice how my table goes crossways, whereas the table in here goes down. Well, your x will be your independent variable, which here will be the height, and the y will be the dependent variable, or the weight. Now, you'll need to put your data in by pressing equals to enter each number, and then you move the cursor around by using that big blue button. So you can go ahead and put your first height in, 155, and just press equals, and it pops up there in the x1 box. The cursor is now looking for the second x, so we're going to go across and put all our heights in. So press 160 equals, 163 equals, and just keep an eye on the screen to double check that they're all going in correctly. When you've put your last height in, we want to move across into the weight column now, so press the right cursor. Now you'll see that you can either go up 5 times, or you can go down once and it will take you to the top. But just double check that what you're putting in is now going to be opposite the 155. We need to put 55, then 58, 60, 61, and 65. Now at that point, you can actually use your cursor to go back up and just check that your table looks right and you haven't made any mistakes. Now the next bit is the most counterintuitive part. Press the all clear, that stores your data. Now that can feel a bit scary because it seems like hitting all clear is going to clear everything, but in fact it saves it. So go ahead now and hit the all clear, bit scary. Now we need to retrieve our stats. We're already still in stat mode, so there's no point pressing the mode button to go into stat mode. We're there. But we need to find our data. We want to find out some information about our stats. Now, notice that the number 1 button has yellow writing. It says stat right above it. That's the stat retrieval tool. So I've written here shift 1 because shift gives us the yellow functions, and then 1. That gets us to retrieve stats. Now, instead of recalling that we need to hit 5, let's just look at the choices and see what they've offered us. Now, if we're wanting to find out something about linear regression, which is what we're doing here, we hit 5 because it says REG. Press 5, and now it gives us a bunch of things that it could tell us, and we're looking for R. And if you look on there, R is number 3, so press 3. Now, it's a bit disconcerting. It always comes up with a 0 there. And it's tempting to think that your R value might be 0, but in fact you actually just have to press the equals button, and your R value for your data will come up. So you should have 0.995 for these scores. So double check that you've got that, and if not, perhaps you've entered one of the numbers incorrectly. Now it would be good to go ahead and practice with some other data and see if you can get the correct R value.